So good evening everyone, Happy New Year to you all. Welcome to Overview and Scrutiny, and I've forgotten the date already, so we're at 13th of January. So first of all, do we have any apologies for absence? Yes, Councillor Ellis?
Yes, apology from Councillor Roxanne Ellis, please. Substitution is Councillor Michelle Walsh.
Thank you. Councillor Maltby?
Apologies, Chair, from Councillor Lorraine Brown due to ill health, and Councillor Sam Smith is en route from County Hall. Should be here about 5-10 minutes.
Thank you very much. Okay, so just to let you know that on today's agenda we won't be having a portfolio holder attending. We were due to be hearing from Councillor Hollingsworth, but unfortunately her husband's had a fall, so she's unable to attend. So we have the minutes of the meeting from the 18th of November. Is people happy that these are a correct record? Can I have a proposer and seconder, please? Councillor Ellis, thank you. Councillor Pope, all those in favour? Yay. Thank you very much. Any matters arising? Nope, nothing from officers? Nothing? Nope, great. So therefore we'll move... Oh yes, sorry. It's all right. My my paper suddenly shot forwards about 3 pages. Yes. Are there any declarations of interest? Councillor Maltby.
I'm not sure. I may have a non-pecuniary interest with being a tenant with Jigsaw Homes.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know. Councillor Welsh.
I've no idea whether I'm supposed to say this, but obviously I'm a Member of Parliament.
Thank you. Okay, so we now move on to item 5, one of our regular partnership reviews, and today we have a presentation from Jigsaw Homes from Sue. Sorry, Sue, I've forgotten your surname. Sue Cox. Sue's asked if we could keep any questions till after she's given her presentation, unless obviously there's something that you really don't understand. Thank you. So over to Sue.
Thank you. Okay. I've been asked to come along on behalf of Ivan Wright, who was the Operations Director who delivered the presentation to you last time. So I'm standing in for him. I'm Sue Cox, I'm Assistant Director of Neighbourhoods at Jigsaw Homes, and I'm here to give you an overview of what Jigsaw Homes do, and I'm concentrating basically on our frontline services. So I'm going to look at things like stats on our stock and where it's situated within Gedling, how we manage our customer contacts and our specialist teams, our approach to lettings, our approach to the cost of living crisis, our asset management work, our engagement work with the residents, our Jigsaw Rewards consultation platform, and Jigsaw Foundation Grant Fund, as well as our new developments in the area. Okay, so Jigsaw Homes was formed in 2021 as a result of a merger between New Charter Housing Group and Actus Homes. We're now one of the largest social landlords in the country, and we build, renovate and manage low-cost homes for rent and sale. The core of our business is centred around the management of 37,500 homes, and they're principally social housing for rent. 3,300 of these are in Midlands, in Gedling. We've also got a healthy nude build programme, and we're looking to deliver for the ever-increasing demand there is on social housing. We've pledged to build 4,000 homes by 2030. We also work to help regenerate neighbourhoods and increase life opportunities for disadvantaged individuals and communities through our neighbourhood engagement work. We also provide a range of charitable and supported housing services to help people live independently and help people sustain their tenancies. The vision of Jigsaw Homes is that we want everyone to live successfully in a home that they can afford. So Jigsaw Homes is a registered social landlord formed from the stock transfer from Gedling Borough Council. The majority of the stock within the boundaries of Gedling, we've got a stock of 3,297 properties, which consists predominantly of Victorian and post-war homes. The largest part of this stock is general needs homes, predominantly 3-bedroom homes. That forms 72% of the stock. We've got 25% of the stock is over 55s accommodation, which is a very high percentage within social housing and within the Jigsaw group. 2% is shared ownership, and just less than 1% is supported housing. You might not be able to see this properly on the map, but it shows the cluster of properties within Gedling. So to the south, the cluster is in around Netherfield, and to the north, it's at Daybrook and Arnold, with another healthy cluster around Calverton. But we also work in the areas of Daybrook, Arnold, Kingswell and Killersick, Netherfield, Carlton and Carlton Square, Newstead Villages, Colwick, Calverton, Mapperley, the parishes and Gedling. So our customer contact, we've got two main contact centres. They're both based in the northwest, and both have retained ACC Global accreditation for the customer service for the last 13 years. We aim to get it right the first time. So the contact centre teams are highly trained in all our policies and procedures, and all internal teams have developed complex scripting to make sure that they follow all those policies and procedures and that we have a consistent approach to our customer service. The specialist teams, if we're unable to resolve an interest at the customer service centre, it will be passed to one of our specialist teams, and it's logged as a task that comes back within. We have a 2-day deadline for every task that comes to those teams. Some examples of some of the front-facing teams are repairs and maintenance. Our majority of our contacts from customers is about repairs. So they deal with all routine and planned maintenance tasks. We've then got our lettings and tenancy matters management team, and they handle the allocations, the lettings, and day-to-day management of all tenancies. The rent and financial support teams, they collect rent, but they also assist individuals in maximising their income through advice upon the correct entitlement to benefits. We've got an antisocial behaviour team who also deal with safeguarding, and they deal with all aspects of antisocial behaviour and crime that are reported in a neighbourhood. And they take it on from simple warnings right through to legal action for injunctions and ultimately possession applications. They work alongside partners to ensure that both the victims and those accused of disturbance get the support needed. And then we have a dedicated complaints team and who deal with all our council inquiries and MP inquiries. In regards to lettings, it's obviously been well documented about the housing crisis in the country at the moment. Supply is limited, and it's crucial that we're allocating homes appropriately and based on the needs of individuals and families. We do this via the Gedling Home Search, which is Gedling Borough Council's way of allocating partner housing association properties for rent. It's a choice-based letting scheme, and it works from the local authority housing register. Available homes are advertised weekly, and all registered applicants can bid for properties. Housing need is assessed at the point of registration, where all applicants are given a banding. And the key objective is to provide applicants with honest and accurate prospects, as waiting times for properties can be really long. Affordability is even more important now than it's ever been, so we take every applicant through an affordability assessment to assess their incomes and outgoings to ensure that they've got flexibility to afford the property. We can refuse people access to the register, those who don't have the right to register residency in the UK, and those subject to immigration control under the 1996 Asylum and Immigration Act. We can also refuse people based on existing debt and previous ASB or crime. From the 1st of April 24 until the end of December, we'd let 163 properties in Gedling, 21 of these being new build. So the turnover is still quite high. Cost of living is still a major challenge for our residents, and we're seeing people struggling on a daily basis to make ends meet. And we're working across the group to ensure that we're helping people the best we can. We've got cross-departmental meetings to ensure that we're sharing initiatives and advice, and we're working together to lessen the impact of the crisis. So a list of some of the things that we're doing is we offer assistance to those struggling through our money advice team. They've got a range of tools and information to help residents manage their money and ensure that they're receiving all the benefits that they're entitled to. We can take referrals to this team from either internal or external colleagues, and we can complete financial health checks and income and expenditure forms to help maximise income, minimise spending, and manage some of the worries that people are having about getting into debt with their rent. We have a hardship fund. The hardship fund is available for people who are in severe financial difficulty. The referrals from this usually come from our money advice team and our lettings officers, and they can be used to help things like buying white goods, furniture, emergency food shopping for both new and existing tenants. The grants we give out are up to £750 per individual, and they're allocated based on need. The funding is not advertised externally or directly to tenants, so that we make sure that it goes to the correct people. From the 1st of April 24, the hardship funds assisted 42 residents in Gedling, totalling £19,334. In regards to energy advice, we know that energy costs are still rising, and as such, advice around minimising the costs are provided at sign-up and when people need it. We've got a wealth of information online, including links to individual providers who can assist. Our neighbourhood engagement team are trained to give energy advice, and they can complete home visits to ensure people are using their properties efficiently and minimising their costs. We've been successful in securing access to the external fund, the HACT fund. We've been successful in the last couple of years, and we've helped residents in Midlands for that for £3,534 of support. And in 2024, we also had an internal fuel fund where we could refer people in for energy vouchers, and we helped people in Midlands for £3,430 for vouchers. We've got a dedicated employment and training club. This is known as JET, and it's open to those who are looking for work or those who are trying to improve their employment progression. We cover within these work clubs things like CV writing, interview techniques, one-to-one sessions, training opportunities, internet access, job searching, confidence building sessions, business startup support, including grants for business startup, and helping gaining qualifications. We're also helping with the cost of living through our low-cost food provision. In January, we're opening a new community grocers in Killersick. The community grocer will use surplus food from FareShare to offer residents the opportunity to have access to low-cost food. It will cost residents £4 per household per week, and residents need to live within a 2-mile radius of Killersick Community Centre to become a member, and they can complete a weekly shop. This is in partnership with Notts County Council and Gedling Borough Council, but it'll be facilitated and run by Jigsaw. We have a winter warmer project, and we identify those who need additional support in winter. Again, we do this through internal referrals, through the money advice team, people who have had the hardship fund, and people who have had their gas capped or the heating not on. And these residents receive a pack based on need, including blankets, fleeces, hot drinks, draft excluders, hand warmers, and all the packs are delivered directly to residents. We've assisted 31 residents in Gedling with those this winter. We've also got a database of support options, such as food banks and community shops, for onward referral from our teams. All our information about the cost of living is on our website, on a link on our website, and we update it regularly as local projects and provision extends. I'll go on to our group asset management team. Fire and building safety is obviously a paramount concern for the group. We are compliant with the Fire Safety Act 2021, and since the last presentation here at the Scrutiny Committee, we have introduced processes to ensure compliance with the Fire Safety England Regulations 2022, which came into effect in 2023. These regulations call for quarterly inspections of communal fire doors and annual inspections on flat entrance doors in blocks over 11 metres in height. And we need to provide relevant fire safety instructions to residents, which includes instructions on how to report a fire and any other instructions which sets out what a resident must do in the event of a fire. And we have evacuation strategies for every building over 11 metres, which are provided to residents with information relating to the importance of fire doors in fire safety. In Gedling, we've got fire risk assessments due on external walls in Cavendish House and Bulcott House, which are both part of the Fox Hill Court, and 2 blocks at Walton Court this year. In regards to damp and mould, in late 2024, in order to improve our customer experience when reporting damp and mould, we recruited a new team called the Healthy Homes team. This team is going to manage cases of damp and mould and provide a service based on quickly identifying issues within our tenants' homes and working with internal colleagues and external support agencies to remedy damp and mould, increase tenants' understanding of how they can minimise these issues, and provide support in cases which need additional help. This is a new service, and we'll continue to adapt it based on the feedback from tenants as to how we can improve it going forwards. It will also help us demonstrate compliance with Abwab's law once it comes into force. In regards to reducing our carbon footprint, in 2020, the government announced its aims to reduce greenhouse emissions by at least 68% by 2030 compared to 1990 levels. And they supported a 10-point plan for all green industrial revolution. In this context, we revisited our existing sustainability strategy and we set out a long-term and stretching work programme to improve the impact of our environment. The aims of our sustainability strategy are to reduce our carbon emissions by reducing the energy demands on our homes and buildings, introduce air source heat pumps, increase and improve access to well-maintained green spaces for our customers, and reduce the impact of flooding on customers in their homes. In waves 2 and 3 of our strategy, here in Midlands, we have done 15 external wall installations, 1 internal wall installation, 44 loft installation upgrades, 32 solar PVs, 67 air-sourced heat pumps, and 4 high-retention storage heaters. And we've also got another 34 properties to do within this wave. Our tenancy offer, it's about ensuring our homes are desirable and not hampered by design and layout issues that result in management challenges. So with this in mind, we're constantly monitoring our stock and the demand and the problems that are resulting. And the asset management strategy is regularly adapted to take this into account, and it includes medium-term projects to undertake in state improvement programmes, the BedSit programme, both addressing weaknesses within our stock. An example of this has been the refurbishment of our independent living schemes, our over 55 schemes, to make them more desirable and attractive to a larger client group. In regards to reactive repairs and planned maintenance, our group asset management strategy sets out how we will maintain our homes, both in reactive and planned prevention approach. Tenants are able to report repairs to us through various means, including an online customer portal, and we respond to these requests on a priority basis with our directly employed workforce through the Borough. We undertake planned component replacements, for instance, kitchens, bathrooms, heating systems and roofs, and cylindrical external decoration in line with the Decent Home Standard guidelines during both active tenancies and when a home becomes void. A grounds maintenance contract still with green spaces and still receiving a lot of positive feedback. Our neighbourhood plans, you'll be well aware of our neighbourhood plans model, and we've continued to progress that throughout the last year. The plans identify low performance and high performing areas through analysis of internal and external data, including data on things like poverty, health and employment. Every quarter we update that information, which highlights new priorities and new reasoning for poor performance. And we use that data to decide which projects we're going to be used within our neighbourhoods. We focus on the themes of employment, skills and training, financial wellbeing and health and wellbeing, although we also do support initiatives looking at environmental works. Our employment and skills team, which I mentioned on the cost of living slide, hold a number of work clubs free for not just residents, where they're just not just tenants, sorry, any residents within the local area. They hold, at the moment, 3 work clubs in the Beth Easter Church in Netherfield, alongside Netherfield Food Bank, Daybrook Baptist Church alongside Arnold Food Bank, and Carlton Methodist Church. And these support on average about 32 people per quarter. In addition to that, we support local job fairs and partner job fairs, including the Gedling Borough Council job fair here in the Civic Centre on the 15th of February, to which the DWP refer customers in, as well as the Arnold job fair. The neighbourhood engagement team are trained to write and deliver training, both accredited and non-accredited courses, and we put on a range of courses that are free for residents, including things like first aid, food hygiene. We advertise these through our partners, and we take referrals from both internal and external sources. In regards to food poverty, in addition to the new pantry, which I mentioned before, we do engage in supporting residents with food provision in the school holidays, including engaging with the Netherfield Forum to provide free meal to residents on Fridays. We also refer residents into partner provision, including Arnold Food Bank. Social isolation is a huge problem for some of our tenants, and the team has continued to engage with residents and impact on wellbeing through social activities, things like singing and chair-based exercise sessions, and new weekly arts and crafts sessions began last year at Carlton Methodist Church. They were run by Jigsaw and church volunteers. We also have a monthly memory cafe for those with dementia and those caring for people with dementia, and that's proving still really popular, about 15 people attending each week. The Gedling Singers Project as well, which engages many of our residents both in participation and in the audience, has been a great success last year. In regards to environmental work, we have a waste management programme. The environmental work that's facilitated by the engagement team includes educating residents on recycling, attempting to reduce fly tipping, and the creation of community gardens and improvements. And we've liaised with Gedling Borough Council colleagues regarding some hotspot areas in the borough for bin contamination, fly tipping and rodent outbreaks. And these projects have included Westmoor Close in Mapley, Cross Street in Gedling Grove in Arnold, and Renshaw Drive in Gedling. We've also completed Clean-up Day this year in Westmoor Close in Mapley, and we aim to complete more of those next year. In regards to community projects, in the spring and the summer, we assist residents with establishing community gardens, such as the Bourne Mews allotments, and we have family planting days, places like Killissick Family Hub and Netherfield Family Hub. We're always keen to hear about opportunities to establish any gardens. And we have Jigsaw Foundation is our grant fund with £45,000 we have available every year for community groups and residents to distribute and charities to fund projects that will benefit our residents. So this financial year we've already allocated £44,000. All projects under £25,000 are voted on by residents through our Jigsaw Rewards portal, and those over £25,000 are decided on by our operational directors team. So some of the projects we've helped this year, we've given £5,000 to the Lift Children's Hope, who work in partnership with local schools to create a range of programmes aimed at inspiring children and positively impacting their lives. We've given £5,000 to Carlton Community Hub Cafe and Food Bank, We're running a bi-weekly community cafe and food bank, including free lunches, befriending and access to local outreach, benefit and welfare advice. Given 3,593 to over 55 scheme at Stockinger House to provide social activities to residents. 2,250 to Connecting in Carlton, which is active partners trust that provide connecting local organisations, partners and residents in local community to help reduce loneliness and social isolation. 2,460 to Netherfield and Colleague Senior Citizens Club to benefit residents who are no longer able to take longer holidays by taking them on coach outings. And £9,000 to Dyson Balls Community Hub, who provide weekly activities, including board game events, craft and knitting circles. They have 5 sessions a week, and they're estimated to reach over 500 people. All of those projects are monitored to make sure they deliver what they said they would when they applied for the grant. I've got lots of information on those projects if anyone needs anything further. Jigsaw Rewards is our online tenant engagement programme, and this gives the residents the ability to give feedback on a range of topics from which they can receive either shopping vouchers as a reward or money off their rent. At the moment, we've got 325 residents part of that in Gedling. We use the portal to consult on all frontline facing policies, including our tenants' annual report content, all the Jigsaw Foundation voting under 25,000, as well as consultations for individual teams. And we've also done some for partner organisations as well. As part of our commitment to build 4,000 homes by 2030, we've got an ongoing building presence in Gedling. I've got lots of facts and figures about things, but I won't go into all of them. I'll just give you some headlines. We are in contract for 493 new homes to be delivered between 21 and 2028. And so far, up to this quarter, we've taken handover of 160 new homes. We're working in Gedling, Rushcliffe, Broxton, Nottingham, Newark, Sherwood, Ashfield and Mansfield. Some of the grant-funded schemes are Rollinson Drive, which I'm sure you're aware of, in Arnold. 131 properties, 85 of those are affordable rent and 46 are shared ownership. The site did stall last year following Ilk Homes entering into administration, but it is now up and running. And in November, we took handover of 16 units and the first people moved in. We anticipate delivery up to 2025, and it will be done in waves. We are in close contact, our development team's in close contact with our lettings team to make sure if there's any delays, then we're well ahead of letting people know. We've also got Sherwood Road in Nottingham, where we've got 34 1 and 2 bedroom flats. 11 are rent to buy and 23 are affordable rent. And the works that we've started on site and the first handovers are proposed in June 25. We've got Wood Lane in Mansfield, which are 40 2, 3 and 4 bedroom homes for affordable rent and rent to buy. And we've got Miller's Way in Kirkby in Ashfield, which are 49 2, 3 and 4 bedroom homes for affordable rent and shared ownership. And all handovers on those are complete. We also have a number of Section 106 acquisitions, which I can send through later if people are interested in those. So as part of our commitment to our partnership with local authorities and elected members, all inquiries that we raise through these channels are responded to by our Chief Exec's department. This ensures that we've got a consistent approach which is coordinated. The most effective way for any elected members to raise a query is using the email address there, and it will be responded to by the dedicated team. So that's a really brief overview of Jigsaw Homes. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Sue. Really lots of information. So thank you for that very interesting presentation. I've already got a question from Councillor Robinson-Payne.
Thank you for the presentation. It's a question and a few comments and feedback, if that's okay. I was really pleased to see about the cost of living support. I know that we've picked that up a few times from some of the leaflets that have been handed out and at the council and put in members' pigeonholes. That's been really useful to pass on to customers of your services. Just to give some feedback about the councillor MP's correspondence email address, I have to just be completely honest with you. I recently had some local issues in Daybrook. As you said at the start of the presentation, we've got a lot of your housing in my ward of Daybrook Ward. And I did raise some issues, and I just felt that the response that I received on something that was affecting quite a number of residents was a bit like a computer said no response. I also asked if a representative of Jigsaw could come out to the ward and walk about the ward with me to look at this issue and perhaps pick up on any other issues. I was told no. And I just think that, you know, when we're looking at partnership working, the council need to work well with Jigsaw and vice versa. I think that the approach that I've seen, especially since being elected, not engaging with us on a local level in that way, I think we could improve on that area. I know that you've got some staff that work locally, and I just think that, you know, even if they could give half an hour to come to a ward and have a walkabout with a member about some of the issues, I think that that would set a really good example to our residents and to the people around that Jigsaw isn't just this blob, but actually they do care about the local issues. So if we could look at that, that would be great. I just wanted to put on record some positive feedback. I attended Seagrave Court a number of times, which I know is a scheme that's run by Jigsaw. And I met with one of your staff members, Helen Reyes-Manana, and I'm sure she wouldn't mind me saying this, but I was very impressed by the activities that she put on for the residents there. I particularly thought that the over 55 scheme was really, really good, really engaging. Also, I attended an event at Tavel Fields, which is another scheme that Jigsaw run, and again, that was really positive. And I know that the feedback from the residents there was very, very positive, said that they really enjoyed it. And I just think that that is a really good example of tackling social isolation. And I think if we can continue to support those schemes, that would be amazing. And just on the clean-up days, I just ask that Jigsaw Homes do engage with the local councillors again so that we can join in on those clean-up days, but also to encourage our residents, to let our residents know when these events are coming up, these activities are coming up, because time and time again, you know, we're talking about fly tipping all the time and about some of the issues about people disposing of waste, and sometimes you'll see bits and pieces in people's gardens because they're not sure who to go to, how to dispose of things. And I just think that, you know, if we could work together on that, I think we could make a big difference for Jigsaw Properties. Okay.
Sorry, come back on the issues around Daybrook and the councillor inbox. If I could take your details, I would be able to feed that back and see if we can get someone there for the half an hour walkabout.
Councillor Welsh.
I won't go over too much because I think Kyle said pretty much of what I was going to say as well, but it is to say that there seems to be some disconnect when you contact them, whether you're a councillor or a member of parliament, with a situation where there is a house repair or there's a family in a house where there is a situation. Now, I was really interested to what you said with regards to the mould and things like that. Perhaps maybe at some point you could come back with regards to how many residents have actually contacted you and what your response rate is about as well. Because the time from when something is reported to then it has to come to me because something's not being dealt with, and then going back to you is significant. And maybe, and at first maybe it was just where I was a county councillor and a borough councillor, but now I'm a member of parliament for a different part of it. It's exactly the same. And so this disconnect between as well, this understanding of the local area when you contact the contact centre is large. And I don't know how you do that, but the people that we're contacting, there's no contextual thing. So if you're talking about Daybrook or you're talking about Calverton, for example, they don't understand the context of it, and it's just not being dealt with in a timely fashion. Now, you might have some data or statistics that suggest otherwise, and maybe me and Kyle are just getting something different, but as different roles, it's a very similar situation. So I'd be really interested in what the time frame between when someone phones you with an issue, how that is categorised, and when it's actually dealt with and when it's satisfactorily dealt with. I'd be really interested in that. Thank you.
Yeah, I can put together some information. I think with regards to the Healthy Homes team, the new team, they will be monitoring everything, and they will be recording that information. So I'm sure we'll bring that back to you. Okay.
So I've got questions from Councillor Whiting, Duncan and Smith and Maltby, so in that order.
Thanks, Chair. I won't rehearse everything that Councillor Robinson-Payne and Welsh have said, but I'll agree with what they said. So could I ask two specific questions on the housing stock in Gedling specifically? Could you tell us how many houses are empty at the moment and what the average time is that they're empty, until someone else moves in, and how many applicants on average for each house? I don't expect you to have that now, but follow it up would be good. And then I think about 3,297 properties in Gedling and 32, I think it was, have had solar panels. So about 1%. I know some of those are blocks of flats, etc. Do you have a plan and a target date for when they will all have solar panels and they will all have been externally cladded? Because obviously in my patch of Colic and Netherfield, and I'm sure elsewhere, a lot of those houses are Victorian and they're very energy inefficient. But doing that stuff can help not only with the housing stock and prevent mould, but also with the cost of living. So if there is a target, I think it would be good to know that. Thanks.
Thank you. As you say, I don't have those figures down, but I can get them for you.
Councillor Duncan.
Oh, yes, thank you for coming along tonight. It's a very interesting presentation. I'd like to sort of echo what Councillor Robinson-Payne said about the email, apart from it being a pain with the encryption. But I've had a similar kind of experience. I do find it a little bit dismissive. And if I'm raising something to do with, say, a particular tenant, then I like to see it through to the end. And what I seem to get is just an email. And yes, I've logged that with you. Well, I know you already know about it, but I'm chasing it up. I want to follow it through. I don't seem to get that. Also, a couple of other questions is that there's a feeling that you used to hold meetings with groups of residents to work things through, and they seem to have tailed off and stopped altogether. And a couple of residents have raised that they feel concerned the service charges seem to be going up quite a lot as well. If you could respond to that, please.
Yeah, with regards to the residents' meetings, when the merger happened and we became Jigsaw Homes, we did have a restructure. So we used to have a resident involvement team at New Charter and Gedling Homes, which is no longer, they're now the engagement team, so they're concentrating more on the work that I was talking about, the cost of living, the employment skills, the food pantries, that type of thing. So we moved away from the traditional attending resident meetings, because the idea at the time was sometimes they weren't always the best people to go along. So you'd be going along to a meeting and they'd be raising repair issues. So you'd just be a middleman. So it was better to get the actual people who could deal with those questions along and get an agenda beforehand. It's not saying that we can't attend them ever. It's just that we needed to know that we weren't there for just being their sake. So the restructure did change that. We don't have a traditional resident involvement team as such anymore. In regards to the service charges, we do have to justify all the service charges and we do have to break it down and give costs. So we will be able to do that on individual cases. We don't make profits on service charges. So it is the cost of procuring what we need to.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Just to echo other views, if I may, I know I've raised concerns on behalf of residents about Stockinger House in Burton Joyce. Residents are being blocked from seeing their electric meters, which is then causing issues with bills. And I raised that through the Councillor MP Enquiries line. And as Councillor Robertson-Payne has said better than I can, it's a bit of a computer says no response. I know that's a very particular issue to raise, you won't be able to answer it, but I think there's more joint working we can do. And whether a suggestion I'd put out there is let's hold joint drop-in sessions, a bit like surgeries, with Jigsaw there and the councillor there, and we can hold them at mutually convenient dates and times on site. So then we're both hearing the same thing from the residents and the councillor here's what Jigsaw's saying back, because we're at the forefront and it feels a bit like Jigsaw aren't being as open and honest and as approachable as the councillors may be, and then we get the brunt of it. So just a suggestion, if we can hold joint drop-in surgeries at these sites, that'd be helpful.
Can I ask, you mentioned Burton Joyce, what property was that?
Stockinger House.
Stockinger, okay. And for the joint sessions, are you talking about the whole of the borough or a particular area?
Well, yeah, if we've got them in our wards, yeah.
Councillor Maltby.
Hi, thank you. First and foremost, thank you very much for the information you provided us. It was very useful. I probably come from a bit more of a unique area to some in this room, as I've been a tenant for Jigsaw Homes for many years, and prior to that, Gedling Homes. What I can say is any repairs is always reported in your handbook, and it's categorised on importance on what the repairs are. So the information is there. If people want to know what the priorities are, it can be seen in the handbook. I've had a couple of issues with regards to people trying to obtain disabled facility grants in properties, being told it's 18 to 24 months even before work starts, which seems a bit excessive, particularly if we're looking at making sure people are able to remain in the home and maintain their independence. So that's one issue I've come across. Another issue I've come across is the support for people who are in debt, particularly if they've got some rent arrears. I had a family who lost their employment. The person was suffering with severe mental health and was suicidal, and almost did attempt to take their life because they'd been in touch with Jigsaw Homes to let them know the situation and kept them informed. But despite that, other people were still ringing them up, pressurising them about the debts that they were already talking to someone about. So that just added a bit of pressure, which I think we can avoid if something's in place. So I'd love to have a chat about that, because that would be most helpful. On a positive note, what I can say is all the times I've ever requested a repair, it's always been done very promptly. Yeah, things do happen, and sometimes the person hasn't been able to come out, but I've always have been informed that the person's not able to come out, and a date was scheduled soon after. So with regards to repairs, I've never had an issue with that, nor any other tenant that I've spoken to with Jigsaw Homes has had an issue with that. So clearly something is going well, but if we can just try and address some of these issues, and again, some of these joint working, more joined up working between ourselves and your organisation, I think would be a bit more helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, and thanks for your presentation. I want to just sort of venture into the area of housing and homelessness and things like that. and just sort of get your comments on it. Is it correct that if you're not tier 1 in terms of the assessment, your likelihood of obtaining accommodation is vanishingly small? So that's the first query. The second issue that I've come across with regard to people who, through no fault of their own, have found themselves with eviction notices, one of the things that I'm told is that if they're looking for private accommodation, because they're not tier 1, then their lettings agencies complete an affordability assessment, which essentially excludes people on benefits. Can you assure me that you would not exclude people on benefits in terms of rehousing them, because otherwise they are definitely between a rock and a hard place? And also, would you agree with me that there continues to be a housing crisis, and what in particular Jigsaw Homes might be doing in order to develop options for people who find themselves either homeless or they're in overcrowded and unsuitable accommodation? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. In regards to your first question about a tier 1, we have a huge demand for housing and very small amount of empty properties. I'm going to find out the only empty properties that we will have are ones that will be in need of repair, so they'll be undergoing works. We don't have properties sat empty. The chances of getting in some organisations, they've shut their waiting lists. That's how bad the crisis is. And yeah, of course, if you're higher up the tier, you are more likely. It doesn't mean that you will not if you're on a lower tier, but it will depend on a number of factors, such as the type of property you're looking for, the area you're looking for, the popularity of that. So I can't give you a definite, no, you will definitely not get a property, because it will have a number of factors, but the chances are slim if you're not on one of the highest tiers. In regards to, you talked about eviction notices and working with people who are entitled to benefits, who are claiming benefits. No, we have a high percentage of residents who are on benefits living in our homes. That wouldn't exclude you from being able to have a property. And in regards to the housing crisis and what we're doing, we've got a large development programme which I did go into, which is one of probably the biggest from social housing providers in the country, and all providers are being asked to develop more. So we're doing as much as we can, and we're building as quickly as we can.
Are you coming back for the same?
Yes, just very quickly. I'm particularly concerned, you'd expect me to be, with regard to house building in Gedling. Now, obviously, we're aware of the Rolleston Drive project, but is there anywhere else that you are either developing or proposing to develop?
Yeah, I had the 4 schemes that I mentioned. The Sherwood Road in Nottingham, which obviously is in Gedling, and well, there's Mansfield, which is in Gedling, and Kirkby to Ashfield. So actually, at the moment, yeah, not. We've got a number of Section 106 acquisitions, so things that are in the pipeline, that are in talks. And one's Burton Road, Gedling, in contract for 17 rent and shared ownership properties. So there are other ones. It obviously also depends on what land's available as well. It's not.
Okay, well, I think it's the last question from Councillor Allen.
Thank you. There's a property in my ward called Westmore Court, which is for tenants over the age of 55. I've been made aware by long-term tenants in the property that they feel that the cohort that is being moved in is changed. They feel that people with long-term complex needs are being moved in, and without any support packages at all. So it's tenants with maybe alcohol or drug problems, or maybe early onset dementia are being moved in without any support packages, and they're adversely impacting the way of life of the other tenants, and they're finding it difficult to get the problem solved satisfactorily. I wondered if you have changed the policy on what sort of tenants would move into a property like that, and if you do move residents in with complex needs, whether you do have support packages in place.
Yeah, we do an assessment of everyone who moves in to see what support they need. I think sometimes we aren't aware until they move in, particularly with things like the dependency issues. We've not changed the policy, but we are seeing a change in demand for some of the properties, and I think that is leading to who is being moved in. Once we've got someone moved in, if they are causing an issue, we do obviously have our antisocial behaviour team. We also have our jigsaw support team who can offer some sort of more tailored support for residents. So we'll do as much as we can when they move in, but sometimes we're letting people are moving in without us being aware. If it's a physical disability, we're aware of that, but we're not always aware of other issues they might not declare to us.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. I feel we've sent you away with quite a lot of homework now, so but if you've got anything to feed back, then Emma or Ben will pass that on to everybody.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for attending. And I suppose this is a good point to mention that Ben sent an email round earlier with some of the topics that are coming up, and requesting that people perhaps either suggest areas they'd like covered, or if they've got questions they know they want answered. I realise a lot of these probably just came up when you were hearing Sue speak, but if we give speakers a chance to know the sort of information we want, then we'll get more relevant information at the session itself. So just have a look at that email and have a think about what's coming up before the next meetings, maybe. Thank you. So the next 3 items, I think, Fran is going to lead us through. So thank you, Fran.
Thank you, Chair. So the first item is the Corporate Risk Management Review of Quarter 2 for 24-25. So this report was previously presented to Audit Committee in December, and it provides an update on the corporate risk position across the Council for Quarter 2. Members may be aware that in March 2024, Cabinet approved a new risk management framework for the Council. This framework was based on a best practice framework recommended by our internal auditors, BDO. The new framework includes a new corporate risk register, which includes 13 corporate risks. Many categories in the new register are similar to the old corporate risks, but there are some new categories and some risks have been split into 2. There is now a risk on its own for fraud, bribery and misconduct, and there are now separate risks for ICT and data management, and an additional risk category for projects. Through Quarter 1 and Quarter 2 of this financial year, a project has been established to transition risks from the old corporate risk register to the new. In addition, the team have been working on transferring risk onto the Council's performance management system, Ideogen, to improve oversight and reporting. It's taken some time to update the Ideogen system, and in November 2024, a workshop was held with all risk owners to review, update and rescore departmental risks and to link them to the new corporate risks. All data is captured in the new system, but we need to ensure appropriate reporting. So we're still in an interim transition period in Quarter 2 in terms of that reporting out of the Ideogen system. You'll see that the corporate risk scorecard report looks slightly different this time at Quarter 2, and this reflects the transition period we're in. In addition to the new risk register and system, a corporate risk group is currently being established to more effectively monitor risks through the organisation and ensure effective management of risks across the council and better reporting to audit committee and indeed overview and scrutiny. You'll see from the risk scorecard that as this is the first report under the new corporate risks, the risk trends are not tracked. So as we move into next quarter, the risks will be tracked as increasing or decreasing against quarter 2. The interim position is that there has been no significant increase in risks levels since quarter 1, nor has there been any marked decrease. You will note that across the corporate risks, there are a number of actions included, all with the aim of mitigating the overall risk level for that risk. Under the new framework, the Council's risk appetite has been agreed as moderate, and the highest level of that is number 4 under the new scoring system, and that's agreed across all functions. Where risks are above this tolerance, the Council will need to take action to mitigate risk levels wherever possible. Just tracking through the scorecard for quarter 2, you'll see that the most significant risks this quarter were in relation to infrastructure and assets, and this was at a high level also in quarter 1 and remains so. Predominantly the risks around the drainage infrastructure at Carlton Forum Leisure Centre. However, it is expected that this risk will reduce later in the year as works are now, we're in conversation with the County Council, works are due to be undertaken to improve those drainage systems. In addition, works to demolish the large shed at the Council's depot site are expected to commence in the spring, subject to an appropriate contractor being secured. So again, this will lower the level of risk in relation to that particular asset. Across the rest of the scorecard, so risk levels are slightly higher than expected in respect of contractual arrangements. A review of procurement has been ongoing in quarter 2 and continues into quarter 3, and we do expect to see an improving picture in quarter 4. Procurement training has now been delivered across all service areas, and we're currently seeking to recruit a procurement and contracts manager in-house to join the council and support improvements in this area. A whole-scale review of our contracts register is currently in hand, and a new contract management module has been acquired for the council's procurement system to facilitate better contract management across the organisation. Risk remains above tolerance in relation to finance at quarter 2. At that point, at quarter 2, there was a lack of clarity around settlement figures and delivery of efficiencies. New efficiencies will need to be agreed as part of next year's budget process to try and mitigate that risk level. Also, as reported in quarter 1, we have an overspend in environment, which has triggered the need for a base budget review. Substantial shortage in resource has been identified in waste services, and we're currently recruiting to improve that position. There is a typographical error in the report which suggests February 24 for those actions in the finance risk. It's actually February 25. That is a typo in relation to that. You'll see there's still work to do to reduce risk across health and safety and environmental risks such as emergency planning and business impact assessments. We now have a corporate business continuity policy, and a review of the emergency plan is scheduled in March. In terms of health and safety, whilst overall this is an improving risk picture, because you may recall last year's risk, health and safety was at a higher level and it has improved. There has been significant changes, however, in staffing and a reorganisation through the council, which means that all risk assessments are being reviewed by new managers and assistant directors as they're coming into role. In relation to fraud, bribery and misconduct, again, the risk is higher than our risk appetite. There are a number of actions in trend in respect of this risk which have been supported by internal audit, including a review of our anti-fraud strategy, a forensic review of some of our bigger risk systems, including Civica, to ensure appropriate controls in user access are in place. Finally, the risk in respect of information and data is higher than we would like. This is not surprising, as following the implementation of our digital data and technology strategy and the investment in resource around this area and our new assistant director of ICT, there is a lot more work going on to investigate our systems, our processes, our data, and as you might expect, when there's a deep dive into these areas, some of the risks escalate and rise. But we're hoping for a much improved position into next year as any risks are tackled and appropriate actions put in place across the teams. If you have any specific questions about any of the other risks on the scorecard, I will do my best to answer them. But I wanted to show that there is significant work underway to improve risk management across the organisation and get those risks down within a risk tolerance level. There are some risks that will never be within tolerance. There are some decisions the council may take which do have a level of risk attached to them, but they need to be considered carefully in relation to particular actions or risks. I don't know if you have any specific questions, but I've kind of highlighted, I suppose, where the risk tolerance is higher than we would like it to be and what the proposed actions to bring that down are. I'm hopeful when the Q3, Q4 reports come through that all the data will be in IdeaGen and you will have a fixed format going forward as to how the risk scorecard will look. And again, the ability to then track. Now we've rescored and realigned, we'll then track the risk going up and down under the new framework. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on that item? Nope. Let's move on to the next one. So next one's the Gedling plan, Q2.
Thank you. So the Gedling plan Q2 report. So this report sets out the performance data for the council at the end of Q2, representing the period July to September 2024. Starting with actions, there are 96 actions currently active in the Gedling plan for delivery during 24-25. And at the end of Q2, there were 18 actions completed, with the remaining 78 either in progress or assigned to an officer for delivery. In terms of performance indicators, there are 30 indicators, of which 14 were either on or above target and 8 missed target. There are 8 indicators which were for data tracking purposes only. The table in paragraph 2.4 of the report shows examples of particularly positive performance, and just drawing attention to a couple of those. Firstly, the number of visits to leisure centres, where we've achieved a figure of 317,000 visitors that quarter against a target of 271,000. And linked to this is the increase in the number of swim school members and an all-time high of DNA members. And I would just like to add at that point the performance of our leisure services team in terms of driving income and growth with swimming and DNA has been quite phenomenal in the last year, and those targets demonstrate that. We've also had an exceptional performance by the revenues team, where the percentage of both council tax and business rates collected at this stage of the year is above target, which is also positive. The reasons for the indicators that have been missed are set out in paragraph 2.5. So we are down on the number of attendances at Bonington Theatre in Q2. The reasons suggested for this was due to a lack of film releases during the summer, so no huge blockbusters drawing people to the cinema during the summer period. In relation to housing benefit claims, so the average time of processing housing benefit claims against a performance of 17.7 days. We had a performance of 17.7 days against a target of 15.8 days. This was due to issues with the ICT software, meaning the work required more manual intervention, but we do anticipate this to be back on target in Q3. Average time to process housing benefit changes in circumstances. We have a performance of 7.7 days against a target of 5 days. This was due to increases in caseload with the migration to the Department of Work and Pensions for universal credit, as well as the issues with the ICT software. Again, we anticipate being back on target next quarter. We are slightly down on our target against percentage of invoices paid within 30 days. So our performance figure is 96.79 against a target of 99%. This was due to staff capacity issues and delays in goods received being registered. In terms of the number of long-term empty homes returned to use, we have a performance figure of 12 against a target of 17. This is a matter of timing, as we are above target for the whole year, but in that particular quarter we were below. Net additional homes provided, we have a performance of 62 against a target of 116. Again, this is a matter of timing, as we saw delays, as has been mentioned, in the delivery of the Rolleston Drive development. We anticipate this to be back on target in Q3, because that development did progress. The percentage of minor planning applications processed within 8 weeks, we have a performance of 83.33% against a target of 86%. There has been a number of historic complex cases that have been resolved in this quarter and some issues with staffing capacity. And again, we expect this to improve in the next quarter. In terms of number of affordable homes delivered, we have a performance of 7 against a target of 38. Again, this is a matter of timing connected to the Rolleston Drive development, and we anticipate this will be back onto target next quarter. Paragraph 2.6 provides a summary of the position regarding compliments, complaints and MP letters, and these continue to be reviewed regularly by the senior leadership team and annually by Cabinet, and indeed there's a report later on the agenda in relation to complaints for last year. In terms of achievements in Q2, these are set out in detail in the appendix to the report, with some separately highlighted, and they cover the Ambition Arnold public consultation, which ran in Q2, which is now closed and was presented to Cabinet in December 2024. The Carlton Long-Term Plan for Towns, for which a commitment has now been confirmed by the new government, and during Q2, work had significantly progressed on the 3-year investment plan and the 10-year vision. Also, the launch of the new customer experience programme, which was designed to improve service delivery and to be more responsive and reliable. And as I was already mentioned, there has been an all-time high in DNA membership figures in Q2. I would like to place on record thanks to all staff for continuing to deliver high quality services across the council throughout that quarter. And that's the performance report, unless there's any questions.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I think that's the first time I've seen the empty homes one under target, and I must say the team are fantastic and they do a lot of work, and I don't think we should dwell too much on that, and I think they're on target overall for the year anyway, so just continue what they're doing because they're doing a great job. Could I just add on page 46, one of the 18 completed actions, I think it's bullet point 5, says investment in new and upgraded CCTV in priority hotspots. Does that mean ASB or fly tipping or both? And I'd quite, if after this meeting we could share the criteria of how what they've been judged against and how those locations have been picked, that'd be really helpful, because I bang on and bang on and bang on and we'll keep banging on about Stoke Bardolph fly tipping, which happens too often, and I've tried to get a camera and it's a bit like computer says no. So to understand the criteria of how they've been judged and picked would be helpful to move that forward, please.
Yeah, certainly I can do.
Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Ellis.
More of a comment, really, which is really I want to congratulate the customer services team on how they've been performing, and in particular how valuable the outreach programme is. Long may it continue and be expanded. I'm all in favour of it. Thank you.
Okay, and then the complaints update, please.
Thank you. An annual complaints report is taken to Cabinet every year, and the report also includes a review of the Council's complaints, compliments and comments policy. This year there have been some changes to that policy to align it to the Local Government Ombudsman's complaint code. So the Ombudsman have been clear that councils should align their own complaints policies with that code, and that they should have regard to the code when considering complaints. Whilst the Ombudsman can't force local authorities to adopt the code, what they have said is that they will consider the code when they're looking at whether or not there has been maladministration in the handling of complaints. So that's one of the reasons the council have moved to align our complaints policy with the Ombudsman code. The policy has been reviewed and amended, and I suppose particularly of note, there has been an increase in response times to stage 2 complaints from 10 working days to 20 working days as standard, which makes sense because stage 2 can be quite complex. Obviously, it's been through stage 1, and then this is an overall review of that response and the investigation. So they can take a longer period of time, and that was the time frame that was in the Ombudsman Code. Also, there's been some clarity added to some of the definitions in relation to what is a service request and what is a complaint. We've also referenced in there complaints handling training, and we're looking at rolling out a programme of complaints handling training in-house to make sure that officers are well equipped to deal with complaints across the board. In terms of the statistics, so at stage 1 in 23-24, we received 417 complaints overall. This was a slight increase from the previous year. 39% of those were upheld at stage 1, which again is a slight increase, but does show that we are, we don't just dismiss complaints, we do take them seriously, and they will be upheld where appropriate. There was a slight reduction in the volume of compliments received in 23-24, with 190 received against 225 from the previous year. Whilst the report doesn't delve into specific trends and what's linking to those complaints, this is looked at through our performance monitoring process. What is identified is that there is a significant reduction in complaints in revenue services in 23-24, a slight reduction in complaints in waste services in 23-24, but there was an increase in complaints for our parks and street care team in 23-24. They increased from 33 to 64. And it's hoped that a service review and transformation work across the organisation, and particularly across the depot services, will impact and reduce those complaints levels going forward. At stage 2, there was no change in volume in 23-24, so 22 received at stage 2. Complaints continue to be monitored quarterly by senior leadership team, and in relation to equality complaints, they are recorded separately and they are monitored through SLT, but all through our strategic equality and diversity group. In terms of Ombudsman complaints, it was a positive picture for 23-24, with no complaints upheld by the Ombudsman. And of the 10 complaints that were passed through the Ombudsman from the Council, only one was referred to full investigation and it was not upheld. So whilst this report is broadly statistical, it should be noted that just thinking overall about the volume of interactions across the Council, when you look at a total of 417 complaints in that context, it's the number of contacts that we have at the council across a range of things, that is a relatively low number and actually should be seen as quite a positive. That said, we're constantly seeking ways to improve our performance and make sure that we are monitoring feedback and dealing with complaints appropriately and using that data and those trends to improve our performance overall. And as members will be aware and have heard in various meetings, I've no doubt, there is a huge transformation programme of work going on across the council at the minute. It's touching on all departments, and it's again, one of the aims of that is to really improve that engagement with customers, improve that interaction, and improve and reduce those complaint levels. So that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on that paper? No. So we move on now to item 9, the updated report and interim recommendations of the Funding Review Working Group, which I believe Emma is going to talk us through.
Yes, hello. So this report was amalgamated based on our Funding Review Working Groups. It's slightly different to the normal reviews that we've done because it's not finalised as such. This is my interpretation of what you wanted. So my main thing here is to firstly check that I've interpreted that correctly. And if so, then this report will go to Cabinet for an update to them to tell them what you've been doing regarding funding. The recommendations that are in the report, there are only 4. One of them is to note the update work and make any comments as necessary. The second one is to encourage departments to review and record any lessons learnt to ensure the council doesn't make similar mistake with future bids. That was quite a key topic that we discussed in our meetings. The third one was to encourage departments to undertake more thorough consultation before sending in bids to ensure that they're robust. Again, that was quite a big topic that we discussed when Tanya came to the funding working group. And then finally, to note that you wanted the group to be placed on hold until further clarity from the new government is proposed. So those are the 4 recommendations that we give to, that I've interpreted that you want to give to Cabinet. If they are correct, then this report will go to Cabinet in February. And then we'll get an update back from the portfolio holder for this area to say obviously yes or no and how they plan to implement these comments. So I suppose the first thing for me is, does that seem what was agreed? And if not, then what amends would you like me to make to the report?
Thank you, Emma. Are there any points people want to raise in relation to that draft report? Nope. That's good then. You obviously took very great notice of what was said.
We try, yes. So,
do we need to vote on that then?
yeah, so the recommendation for the report is, one second. So to consider the report and the interim recommendations, and then to forward that to Cabinet. So if that's agreed by the group, then I can do that. Take it to the February Cabinet meeting.
Okay, do you just need a show of hands?
Yes, please.
Okay, all those in favour?
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that was unanimous.
Yes, brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. And then finally move on to the scrutiny work programme. Is that you again?
Yeah, that is. So as we do every meeting, this is just a general update on what was discussed at the last meeting. You would have heard the Chair mention earlier that Ben has emailed around today. You might not have seen it if you've not looked at your emails yet, but he's emailed around to ask you for any specific topics that you want to discuss in the next 2 reviews. This is so that when we're bringing you the kick-off reports, you're getting exactly what you want and we're not just starting blind. So Ben's emailed you today. Please have a think about those 2 upcoming reviews, which are, the first one is the effectiveness of hybrid working. The second one is the review of fly tipping. So sort of think about what you want to hear, who you want to hear from, what information you want in priority order. Those are the things that are really going to help me and the members and the officers that I'm going to go to get the information. Also today, Ben has emailed every manager in the council to ask them sort of who we work with. I know last time we asked you for suggestions of people that you want to talk to and bring into the committee, and it's a bit hard to sort of know who to choose from if there's people that you aren't familiar with. So Ben's done that piece of work now, but has anybody else had any thoughts on who else they want to bring into the committee? Because as of now, I think we only have one more due, which is... Yeah, so Nottingham City Homes is coming in March, and then we haven't got anybody else for July or moving forward. So we've spoke quite a lot about proactively keeping this working plan quite full so that we know what's coming and we're really using your time wisely. So does anybody have any partners that they can think of right now? Or do you want to wait for the list from Ben of everyone we work with?
Just before I go to Councillor Ellis, at some point can we have a review of the warm hubs for this winter?
So we had
I know we had one last.
An annual update,
yeah.
so you want another update?
Yes. Is that all right with everyone else? Yeah. So, Councillor Ellis?
Yes, just a thought in terms of identifying partners that we work with. I wonder if we could have a word with Julie about organisations that we have recently given large or relatively large grants to, because I would regard them as partners, and perhaps it'd be useful to have them come and have a chat with us. That'd be great. Thank you.
So Jane Ansell was on the list of managers that will get that. So Jane will hopefully give us lots of names or names she thinks are relevant to come and give you an update on that, because that is a point of the partnership review firstly for you to review the people we're funding, how we can best help them if they need anything else, and also to people that we don't directly fund, but all of the residents in the borough that have a link to, or you're the people that sort of are on the front line, so you speak to the residents, sort of their challenges. So that's the point of that, to bring people in to, as you've quite rightly done today, to discuss things that matter the most to the residents. So brilliant, thank you.
Any other comments from anybody else? So perhaps have a look when the list comes round and send them in then. Thank you. Where am I? Is there any other business? Nope. Okay, well, thank you everybody, and the meeting is now closed.